see. If there's any spirits in this room and you would like to speak, could you not do it while I'm recording a video? Hello my darlings, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about Salem's Lot. At the beginning of this year, I decided that I was going to reread Stephen King's books in chronological order, and now that we've discussed Carrie, we're going to discuss the second book that Stephen King published, which is Salem's Lot. As I've said before, I consider this to be more of a discussion than a review. So if you haven't read Salem's Lot, I suggest that you go and do so now and come back to this video. And Ozzy, I don't need your help. It's a ghost! It's a ghost! It's a ghost, Ozzy! We have a ghost in the room! You know, you would think that if I'm going to have a ghost show up in a video and turn on my air conditioner, it would be during the Shining review, not Salem's Lot. We are talking about vampires, not ghosts. You know what? Ha! You're ruining my shot. Thank you. As I said before, I consider this to be more of a discussion than I consider it to be a review. So if you haven't read Salem's Lot, then I suggest that you go and read Salem's Lot now and watch this video later. But if you have read Salem's Lot, then keep watching this video and drop any questions or topics that you might want to discuss about Salem's Lot in the comment section. Please everyone ignore my double chin. I enjoy tacos and pizza and pea picking cake. If you don't know what that is, you suck. Salem's Lot is Stephen King's second novel that was published under his own name. It is about a town that is overrun with vampires, and that is summarizing it very, I don't know what the word is. We're putting it to the bare minimum of what this book is about. The book is centered mostly around a writer named Ben Mears and his obsession with the Marsh House. Now, personally, to say that I was excited to read Salem's Lot would be an understatement, because Salem's Lot will always have a very special place with me because it was my first King book that I ever read. And I think we all know that when King takes your cherry, you never forget it. But the funniest thing is that I only discovered Stephen King's writing by pure fad at the time. So let me take you back over 10 years ago to when I was a young girl and I was just starting to be homeschooled, and Twilight was a very huge thing at the time. Now, I think I was like 14. Well, 14-year-old me was obsessed with vampires. So, when Twilight came out and I discovered that it was a book series, I went and bought all of the Twilight books before I watched the movie and read every single one of them in a very short amount of time. And I am so sad to say that young me was not the smartest, because she was obsessed with it. Which, just FYI, Stephenie Meyer's really need some help in the relationship department, because I have reread Twilight since I've been an adult and had some actual relationships, and yeah, it was not a very good starting point for young impressionable teenager to find out what love is supposed to be. Also, some of the words that she uses, but we're not reviewing Twilight. What I mean to say, though, is that they can see your ear. Now they can see your body. And they can see your butthole and your balls. What I'm trying to get at is that booze, I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I don't want to cut out their voice box because I'm not a petty animal abuser. But what I'm trying to say is that Twilight opened up the door for young vampire lover me to finally indulge in the best and worst that the subgenre of vampires had to offer. So, as with any major book that gets published, when something becomes very popular in places like Walmart and everything, a ton of books come out along the same genre or same subject. So there were a lot of paranormal romances being released at the time, especially in young adult books, which was something that I read quite a bit of since I was a young adult. But, so, I also live in a very small town. My town that my address is under 3,000. My town that I went to school in is under 5,000. So, the biggest thing we have here is Walmart. So, most of my books came from Walmart and what the shelves had to offer. And since Twilight was such a big, massive, blockbuster selling book with a movie coming out, there were all kinds of books being published that were about vampires or werewolves and things like that. So I had a variety of books to buy, and I spent my allowance money on every single one that I could. I read a lot of really bad books. A lot. But having Twilight also sort of pushed me into writing, and it also pushed me into writing horror, funny as that may seem, because after I read Twilight, although 14-year-old me was in love with Edward and wanted to be Bella, no matter how screwed up she is or how horrible Edward actually is as a character and as a guy, I wanted to write my own. And I did. I started writing a novel that is actually in this drawer behind me and will never be published and hopefully never seen by anyone's eyes. But it's basically a ripoff of Twilight, except that where I was able to go very gruesome, I did go very gruesome. And where I was able to add blood, I did add blood. And where I was able to go extreme, I went extreme. This is not a book that would have been in the young adult supernatural romance type of thing. The people that are into that genre would not have liked my book. So I should have known back then that I really needed to let go of that and go for the genre that I'm in now. So I was writing that book, and I'm reading all kinds of other books. And my local Christian mission used to, back in the good old days, sell paperbacks for 25 cents and hardbacks for 50 cents. So most of my books that I would buy would come from there. And I would just, if they had something that looked interesting, I would buy it. That was the cheapest way for me to get books and to also expand my reading horizons. I read all kinds of different books during that time, and some books that I wish I still had because they were so good. But one of those books I happened to find was Salem's Lot. And I had never watched the movie despite growing up on Stephen King. Like, I knew who Stephen King was. I wasn't stupid. My family was huge fans of Stephen King's movies. I probably watched movies like Cujo more than I watched cartoons growing up. The reason I'm screwed up is my mother's fault. But I knew Stephen King's name, I knew what he did, and Salem's Lot had, I still have the book that I read somewhere. I just don't know where I put it. The cover was absolutely gorgeous to me, and it was obviously a vampire book, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get it. And for those of you who somehow are still watching this and haven't read Salem's Lot is a huge book. Like, most of Stephen King's books are door stoppers. This is a huge book. And I was already used to that because if you know Twilight's books, the Twilight series is just a bunch of really gigantic looking books. But then the pages are like, the writing on the pages are very large and there's not as many words as it looks. And it's very simply written, so it's not that hard to get through either. Even if you do like Twilight, I still think that it's a guilty pleasure type of read. I don't know. I think you need therapy. So I take this book home and I start reading it, and I get through Salem's Lot very quickly. I absolutely loved it the first time around. I was a huge fan. And because of Salem's Lot, I think I really did go more into the horror genre, or make whatever I was writing more horrific because of books like Salem's Lot. Because it stuck with me afterwards. I started writing a vampire book that was more original. It was more my own storyline and everything. And one of the things that I did with my book was I made my vampires more deadly rather than more feeling and things like that. And I also quoted a lot of Salem's Lot in that book because of the effect. Do you mind? This is a very, very professional setup I have here, and you are just trying to knock my camera over. Okay? My phone might die soon. And you're just gonna sit there? Hello? I am talking to you. It's safe to say that my first time around reading Salem's Lot was amazing. I went through this entire backstory to tell you that I loved Salem's Lot as a kid. So when I started this reread, and some of them I haven't read, but most of them I have. When I started this reread, I was excited to read Salem's Lot again. And to be completely honest, I was not let down whatsoever. I enjoyed Salem's Lot this time even more. And I don't think that there's ever going to be a time where I don't enjoy Salem's Lot. And I don't know if that's because of the nostalgia factor or if it's just because it is a very well-written book on a subject that has become very comical, to say the least. Barlow is one of the creepiest vampires to ever exist. I think that it's an amazing character. I named my cat Barlow. Not any of these, but I named my other cat, my outside cat, Barlow, because of his very bright blue eyes. Because for whatever reason in the movie, Barlow is blue. But I really love what Stephen King did with vampires. And because of Salem's Lot, and because of the foreword that is in my copy of Salem's Lot, I also read books like Dracula. And I found different comic book series that had vampires in them, and my horizons were just expanded into these fearsome, tough, soulless types of vampires. I loved it. I loved it way more than the sparkly lover boy. No longer did I want to date Edward. With Carrie, it feels like he just dipped his toes in. And with Salem's Lot, it's like he dived straight into the water and was like, this is what I want to write. This is what I'm good at. Because most of the things that Stephen King is most known for are in Salem's Lot. Evil small towns, casts of characters that are both good and bad and completely fleshed out. Elements of the book that show you that people are usually worse than whatever monster we're fighting. Things that I also really love to write about and explore, and I'm not ashamed to say that's because of Stephen King. And even my own upbringing, because that was why I loved his books so much, was that it was honest. I've loved horror since I was a child, and yet living in the world has taught me that it doesn't matter what monster might be under your bed, the one laying in bed with you is probably worse, and it calls itself human. I think Salem's Lot is a really good example of how great King is at conveying terror and conveying grief. Also love and heartbreak. No one asked you. Could you please keep your voice down while I'm recording? Thank you. Anyway, I think Stephen King is a hopeless romantic, and I love that about his work. And I think that because he is also amazing at writing about heartbreak, because Susan done messed me up, y'all. That thing just got me the first time I read that book. So, and the second time I read through it, it still got to me. I think Ben and Susan are an amazing couple, and I am completely sad at how all of that ended. Any topics you want to discuss, leave down in the comment section. Also, my next video for this series will be The Shining. So, how about if you have anything you would like to hear me talk about with The Shining, leave it down in the comment section below. Any points of the book that you would like to talk about, or like for me to also talk about. And then when I record that video, we can also talk about it in the comment section together. Discuss this book that most people consider Stephen King's best book. Me, not so much. But anyway, that is my, not really a review, more like a glowing conversation about a book that means a lot to me. Okay, tell me. So that's this video. And I give Salem's Lot 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. I just love it. It's one of my favorite books. And that's all I got for you today, guys. So please subscribe to my channel, like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and Tony will send you kisses and headbutts, because that is what Tony is best at, is giving headbutt kisses. And if you don't kiss him back, he'll bite your chin. Say bye, Tony. Say bye. Please subscribe. Also, you can buy my books in the description down below, because I need money so that I can buy someone that'll give him attention 24/7. Right, Tony? Huh? Right, Stark? White Devil? I love you. So, I'm poor. Buy my books, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time.